In this video, I'm going to go over some tips and tricks on how to get this first row of luxury vinyl flooring, pergola, or wood laminate going in your home. We're going to start from one wall and work your way to the other wall. You definitely don't want to wind up with like a 1-inch strip on the other wall. So I'm going to go over some important measurements with you. I'm going to show you how to get this perfectly straight so that you wind up on the other wall, you're also not crooked. Hopefully by the end of this video, you'll be confident enough to start your project at home and it's going to come out looking great. You're going to want to make yourself a little graph or a little chart like this. This one is just on the length of the room, so we're 160 inches long. And what I'm going to do is I started out with a 16-inch piece. Now we have a 48, a 48, and another 48. You want to make sure that whatever your end pieces are, they're at least 8 inches long. It's very important that you don't have another piece within 8 inches of another seam. So after I do that first row, whatever this cut piece is, you're going to switch it down to the other end. So now you have 16, 48, 48, and 48. Then the third row, you'll have this 16-inch down on this end again. And you'll repeat that brick pattern all the way across the room. You just want to make sure that whatever that cut piece is, isn't too short. If you wind up with like a 3-inch piece, you may have to cut 6 or 8 inches off of this one to add some length to this one. This is my drawing on the width of the room. I'm 136 inches wide. So if I start out with just full width pieces at 5 inches, I'm going to wind up with a 1-inch sliver by the time I get to the other side of the room. So what I'm going to have to do is I'm going to have to rip this first piece here down to 3 inches. And then when I get to the other side of the room, I'm going to be 3 inches wide as well. In this view, you can see my wall right here. And this first row right here is 3 inches wide. That way when I get to the other side of the room, I'm going to have another 3-inch wide strip. And you can see right here, now I have full planks going across the room. Now that we figured out the width of our boards at the wall side, and we know the length of our cut pieces, now we can go ahead and lay down a kind of a dry piece, and just kind of fit it all together, make sure your measurements seem right. And now we need to make sure that that first row is going perfectly straight or perfectly parallel to the wall so we don't wind up crooked on that side. Now one nice thing, if you have an underlayment like this, it has lines in it. And you can measure from this wall to a line, let's say down at this end, go down to that end, measure to the same line, and you can staple down your underlayment just in a couple places to make sure that it's straight. Measure from that side of that wall to there, this side of the wall over the same line, and you make sure that this is running parallel with your walls. So if you have an underlayment with this grid pattern, you simply measure from this piece here over to any line on the grid, measure from that end to the same line on the grid, and you make sure that it's perfectly straight. If you have 8 inches down here, you want to make sure you have 8 inches down there, and the same in the middle. Now you want to make sure that this first row is securely fastened to the floor because you're going to be working off of that. And you don't want it moving or wiggling around. So I like to use a very small brad nailer. Now I'll put a couple brads all the way down right next to the wall because your trim is going to cover it. And then I'll also put a couple on each end. That's going to secure this first row of flooring for you. You may also want to put a shim from the wall to the floor to make sure that it stays nice and even as well. You can use some door shims, those work well. But I like to use the brad nailer. You can't see the brads, holds it down nice and flat and perfectly straight. Now there are some tools that are going to make this job a lot easier for you. You're definitely going to need a hammer, a small piece of 2x4. You're going to use this to tap the pieces together width and length. And you also need one of these pull bars. So like if you get to the end of the wall, you hook this on to your flooring, and then you're going to tap this end here with the hammer, and that's going to pull the pieces together. One more thing that I like to do, it's not in the instructions under recommendations, but on the ends of each piece, I like to put just a little dab of wood glue on the ends. So if you ever see someone's flooring after 3-4 years, sometimes these tend to separate, but just a couple small dabs of glue will prevent that. Now, depending on where you live, if you have a lot of temperature variation, I like to stay a 1/4 inch away from the wall all the way around. So I have a 1/4 inch gap on the ends and the sides. That's going to allow for expansion and contraction of the wood, the flooring. That way nothing's going to be too tight and buckle. Alright guys, the floor is done. Well, this room is 12 by 14. I'll just pan around here so you guys can see what the floor looks like. It's got a little bit of cleanup left to do, but overall, this stuff went down pretty easy. The best tip I can give you is make sure you spend an extra long time measuring. Double check measurements, triple check them before you get down this first row. You want to make sure it's perfectly straight. You want to make sure you don't have short end pieces. That way when you get yourself across to the other side of the room, you don't run into a problem. Hopefully this video was helpful and informational to you, and thanks for watching.